Hello, my name is Katie Burke. I am the founder and host of the Modern Priestess movement. Today, we are kicking off our series with Rachael Webb, who is helping us explore how to be more confident in our businesses that are rooted in spiritual development. So today, we have a fascinating conversation about coming out of the magic closet, being more aligned with our purpose, and how to do that with our businesses and through social media. So without further delay, I welcome Rachael to the Modern Priestess movement. All right, well, I'm here with Rachael Webb, who is a spiritual counselor and business advisor, and we are going to jump right in because I want to soak up every minute with you and really would just dig right into this juicy conversation. So let's talk about the story. It's on your website for everyone to read in detail, but you write this amazing blog post about coming out of the magic closet. So I would love for you to share the evolution of what that has meant for you coming out of the magic closet.
Yeah, well, it's a continual process, you know?
Yeah.
And really the catalytic moment for me was, when I had an in-person acupuncture practice in San Francisco. And my work was, I was mentoring with a shaman and just really pushing my own edges in my own world. And that was coming through in the sessions that I was doing. So they were becoming increasingly shamanic, and I was not doing things, I felt like normally when you go to the acupuncturist, it's they come in and you chat for 10 minutes and then they put the needles in and then they leave and they go do someone else. And it was yes, I was doing acupuncture, but I was using essential oils, making crystal grids around people, doing sound healing. I had this giant macaw feather that I would do energy extractions with. And I wouldn't leave their room either. When they were resting with their needles, I would still sit in the corner and meditate with them, and we would go on journeys together that way. And so I just really felt incongruent, around when people would say, oh, this is my friend Rachael, she's an acupuncturist. And then people would have the idea of the first thing, and I was like, wasn't that right?
Yeah.
So, and it was, I was doing an interview with one of my friends, and the questions that she sent me were all about what's the best point for acupuncture for weight loss and all this stuff. And I was like, do you not see me?
Yeah.
What the fuck? And I just felt really unseen. And so I got really irate. It was great because she was in Yosemite for the weekend. And I got this tattoo.
Oh, wow.
And I was
beautiful.
Yeah. So that was a symbol. That was a direct download after the first time that I did LSD. And I was in a yoga class a week later, and I'd been seeing something like this, and I was just trying to find it.
Yeah.
So then, and then I had a friend who was really well versed working with that medicine, and we'd talked about it before, but I was I live there. Why would I want to go there? But it's really different than I thought it was. So all of these geometries came to me, and just all of these understandings and everything. And then it was when I had some space from that, I was in Savasana in my yoga class, and this came to me. And I'd been kind of waiting, and I actually thought I would get this on my chest in the center, but then when I felt so unseen, and I was rah! I was this needs to be on my arm where people can see it,
Yeah.
So that was part of this coming out of the magic closet. And simultaneously, that was also when on Instagram, this was last March 2015. So, and I had 760 Instagram followers, and I just had this rural, I feel that whenever you have this incongruence around whatever you understand yourself as on the inside and then what other people understand you as, that's the real invitation, okay, how can I get out of here? Like,
Yeah.
how can I become, it's really an invitation to clarity, right? Where it's like, how can I become even more clear? Because I'm obviously not being clear.
Sure.
So I was like, okay, like I pulled down all of the stuff on my bio, writing about myself, and I was just like, all right, like calling all priestesses, wizards, magicians, sorceresses, witches, shamans, medicine women, like, and I was just like, I'm driving around in my car with the woo-woo siren on the top, waving the freak flag, like, get your butts out here because we have shit to do.
We got work to do. Yeah.
We need to be able to find each other. Like, the work is more important than the fear of these past life traumas of being ostracized and persecuted for having your magic gifts, right?
Right.
So it was a very serious thing for me where I was like, okay, that's enough. And then, that was like, I think a month or so later, that was when I created the hashtag Magic Tribe, and it's an explosion now, right?
It really has been.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like now I have, what is it, like 7.2 thousand people following me, and there's over 10,000 people using hashtag Magic Tribe. So, it really has resonance. And for me, it's like, I still sit in that space of where is that edge. I'm not like, oh, well, I'm so out of the magic closet now, and I'm like, people think I'm a mystic, and that's cool. But it's like it's like the details inside your heart become finer and finer. And so it's like, exploring that even more. And it's just like, and you have to talk about it. You have to share it,
We have to talk about this process, and we have to. So I came up just really recently, right before this modern priestess idea hit me. The day before, I burned down something I'd been building for you. It wasn't aligned, and it wasn't me, and it was me so fiercely trying to stay in the closet. And I was being put in that resistance of me just like holding the door shut. I finally just broke through and took an honest look at what felt good for me. And as soon as I realized, no, I need to destroy this that isn't working, that does need to be shed, we need to take that away, then so much more opened up. And it was immediate. Within 24 hours. That things started flowing and working and coming my way. It was miraculous. And I think that's kind of the time we're living in, where if people really commit to following that, things start to really happen quickly.
Yeah. Like the goddess insists that you jump with both feet.
Yeah, I agree.
She's not like, no, because, it's like you have to meet her halfway. And so she's like, how much do you want?
Yeah.
And so it's like, so you've got to put on the table, like even yesterday I was at the beach all day, and I went out it's like, they have those like signs, dangerous shore break, and the lifeguards are like, don't go in the water unless you know what you're doing. And so it's like, I'm going in and I'm like listening and like asking the water, when can I come and how do the waves work? And then going out there, and then, there's swimming out. And so I went really far. And I like, I kind of, when I got back to my towel, I was kind of like, looked at what I did, and I was like, ooh, okay, yeah. So it's like, you have to be, of course, you have to be mindful of your personal safety, but it's also, you do have to push those edges. And I think that it's a really good point that you make too, is that in order to jump with both feet, you have to cut off, and burn away. That was, before I moved to Maui, I took all of the folders of, like, there was of one of those cardboard cases of all of my acupuncture clients.
Oh, I like where this is going.
And it was packed so tight. I would get like nicks on my cuticles from trying to get in there. And I was like, I'm not taking this box of stuff to Maui, and I'm not paying for a storage unit to hold this one box. And I was just like, I have to let it go. And so I went out to Ocean Beach in San Francisco. And it was also like, I was like, I'm not going to sit here and be like,
right.
trying to So I took the white gas from, when I spin fire, and there's rings where you can burn stuff out there, but I put the white gas on the top of a few of those folders, and it was very windy, so I was starting to worry that it was going to dry up. And I was sitting down, and I was like, I don't know if this is going to work, and I like lit the lighter, and it was like,
time to go. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was so it's like, because this is like you're supposed to keep the records for at least 5 years, insurance purposes, whatever. I didn't do insurance, so I felt like that was a little bit, but I was also just like, red tape is red tape. The fact of the matter is, like, spirit has a higher reign over this red tape humans have created. So, and it was just like, and as I would watch these, like, some very thick folders of all of these, like, complaints and issues, and I was just like, I'm getting chills now. I was like, I'm not holding space for this for you anymore. Like, you're free. Yeah. You're free. Yeah. And I burned my acupuncture license. Wow. And the thing that was like my diploma, I was just like, I'm stepping in both feet, you know? And it was like, and I was also like terrified for an hour because I was like, oh my God, you're only supposed to burn like untreated wood. And it was like right at sunset or right at sunrise. And the paper was kind of like blowing and like the wind was really strong. And I was like communicating with the spirit of the wind and the spirit of the fire. Like, I need this to burn, but I also need it to like be safe. I don't want it to hurt anybody. But yeah, it was like, scared shitless for an hour while that was happening. And it was really, like really, really intense.
Powerful. Really powerful.
But then you make room. Like, you have to keep making the room.
Absolutely. I see you as one of your followers. I see you as now kind of like an energy worker on our platforms. You have this, it seems to me, you have this ability, and where your gift lies is coming in not only and helping with the energetics of, the soul of the person, but the spirit of the service that they're providing. And you even mentioned earlier, when you were in acupuncture school, you were creating your own healing modality for what was working for you as a priestess. And I feel like a lot of us now are stepping into figuring out what is our unique healing modality, and we might be pulling from some ancient wisdom, but we're definitely putting our modern fingerprints on it. So I know those are the women who you are working with, and possibly men that you are working with. I set that up because my question is, for those of us now stepping out in our full putting our robes of magic on and calling ourselves priestesses, where do you see, with some of the clients that you're seeing, where do you wish you could just say, guys, I want you to work on this. I want you to do this a little bit more. Do you have any advice for a lot of these spiritual revolutionaries who are listening?
It's just like, you've got to lean into your edges even more. It's like, when when you've got this, you can feel it where you're like, oh, like, there's this thing that I've been thinking of that I want to talk about, but I feel like I'm going to offend some people. It's like, you've got to offend people. You've got to, and you're not trying to be offensive, but it's like, I can't remember where I read this recently, and I've heard it before, but someone like distilled it out really recently, where it's just like, it was Seth Godin who said, it's like, if you don't have people who speak against you, then you're not doing the work. In essence, I'm totally paraphrasing it.
Yeah.
But it's like, to find those nuggets of what inner realizations have I come to that I'm still working with. That's the key. It's like, when you're still working with it, you can't do it once you've got it figured out, because that idea that you teach what you need to learn, it's really an invitation for you to teach before you're ready, But it's also, so I want to preface this too, where it's like, it's not that it's like you go to a workshop and immediately you start teaching what you learned there. You have to live with it. Right?
Yeah, it has to be this authentic blossoming from that person. Sure.
Yeah. So it has to be something that you put into your own being, and you've been sitting and like tinkering with for a while, but it's like then after you've been tinkering with it, then you have these aha moments, and it's like, oh wow, okay, I just put that stuff together, and I'm also scared to say that because I'm scared of what people will think. That is time for you to say it.
Yeah, you're right. That is the invitation. That's when it is the right time. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's talk about doing this work and wealth consciousness as well, because that's where I see you really shine. And especially with the women that are in your group program right now. I saw a posting that you put up recently where you were claiming it. We're like, we're doing this, and we're inviting the word affluence in. We are stepping into our wealth consciousness. So I would love for you to speak to that a little bit and what that means.
Yeah. It's just like, going back to like the whole history that we've all experienced collectively across lifetimes of being persecuted and ostracized, made fun of, whatever, for sharing our gifts and letting our magic out and being weird. It's like, weird is the new normal. And so, and I also think it's like, you've got to be like weird and, normal too.
Yeah.
It's like, like right now I'm like, I have wet hair. Like, that's what it is,
Right.
And so it's like being real, like that authenticity is the real thing, but it's like peeling away those layers of story until you get to that white hot nugget in the center of your heart. That's the journey. And so it's, as for centuries, because we've had these gifts, we've been persecuted, we've been on the outskirts of town. It's like living in the hut, eating whatever you could find. And, that's where like the story of the witch as this hag, and like, that she's scary or whatever. And you only come to her if you like really need something. And we had to do that because it was like we weren't seen in our luminosity. And so now it's the financial situation is still that, whoever, like our minds are still wired to say, oh, this person has this type of lifestyle, therefore they must be important, And so it's really, really important for us as healers and spiritual teachers and leaders to like deprogram from that story of I have to give my gifts away because I need people to like me. Or it's that, or I have to give my gifts away because, like spirit gives them to me without, I don't, like, you pay for them. You do. It's in a different way. But it's like, burning all the acupuncture files. Like that was an offering. Like I was paying for what I wanted to get. And making room for that. And so it's like it's a multi-part process here that we're unraveling, but it's that you have to let go of this idea that you're unworthy and that you need to give your gifts away for free or for a menial price or something like that because you're concerned about being accepted. And that it's also like it's a game, right? Like the money stuff and the way that the energy works, it's all a game. And so the invitation is for us to, as people who see and understand energy, to step into the game. Because, people are like, oh, yes, we're going to come to a time when money is irrelevant and like, we're going to barter for stuff. And it's like, I don't like bartering with people because, or it's like, I want you, like I tell people, I'm like, I want you to put a price on it. And then I'm going to come with my price because that is
then
the
we
fact.
can barter. Yeah.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is that we're still in this financial construct, and that's where and how we understand value right now. And so it is important for us to play that game while it's still here because we're not going to get out of it by not playing it. and that it's like so many spiritual leaders before have not played the game. And so like it's gone and done its own thing.
Yeah.
And so now it's like it's really important for us as luminaries and visionaries and, you know, people who can see the way that the energy works to be really, really conscious and mindful about how we put our energy into this game to shift the game in general.
Yeah.
So,
and when you're talking, I hear you, what I'm hearing is that money is energy, right? So that's when you're saying when we have to play with the energy or play the game, you mean use our, because I want to make sure I understand this. This is really, really good. Use our power of manifestation and just think of money as an energy that we are attracting and not as money. Would you agree with that?
oh, it's like yes and no.
Okay.
You know, I mean, like money is money is money is money, right? But it's still it's a tool, you know. So, and it needs like it's been, you know, unconsciously used for so long. So, you know, for example, it's like whenever I get cash, I try not to just like let it go out of my wallet right away. I try to have a moment with it where I sit down and I actually write on the back to me ×3. And so, and it's not, I'm not like really so concerned about like, you know, if I spend $20, I want to get $60, but it's that moment of like infusing my consciousness intention into this paper.
Right. Oh, that's beautiful.
So, and it's like, you know, and like if it does, like, you know, it comes back to me ×3, then I'm like, awesome. Now I get to make another decision. Like the stakes get higher and higher. So, you know, it's like the other day, you know, I did the launch for the Soul Star Sacred Council, and I had a bunch of private clients signed up. So I was like, wow, like, and I was not, you know, like, oh, I'm going to keep all this money for myself, or like I need to spend it all right now because I'm not worthy of holding it. Like that's something I'm playing with now, is like holding the money and just being like, okay, like I'm worthy of this number in my bank account. I don't have to spend it as like a spiritual compensation for receiving it.
Right, right.
And then it was still like, I was like, okay, I'm able to play this game. So I was at one point gifted a sum of money, and it was just under the precept of like, okay, like I can do this, and from that person. And so then now it was like my turn to play. So then it's like you look around and you see, who can I gift this money to? And it's something like they have no idea. And it's not like, you know, part of, you know, I've sat in those, what do they call them? Like circles where there's this kind of like pyramid scheme thing happening. And it's not like that, but it's just like people who are just like playing with that money. And it's just so wonderful. So to be able to like send someone some money and be like, hey, I sent you something. And then they're like, what?
Yeah.
And like, yeah. And like, you know, now, like, I know it's like helpful for you now, and then look for the time when you can pass it on.
Right. That's beautiful. Thank you for the clarification there. I think that's really, really wonderful. And another place where you really use your magic and working with, these modern day things, right, that we all have access to, you are really showing us how we can use Instagram as a spiritual revolutionary tool. So I would love to talk about that, because you have your Instagram course, The Energetics of Instagram. That's the title of it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's coming up. So tell us a little bit, how can we use this very modern platform that we're all on anyway? I don't know, where do we even start with Instagram?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, you know, it's like what we go through in the class.
Okay.
But it's also, it's a place where that, you know, you can ride those edges of like, how can I talk about these things that I know in my mind and in my heart, but that I'm afraid to say out loud. And I like Instagram much better than writing a blog post or putting something on your website, because you have this audience right away. You know, it's like, you're right, you can spend days writing a blog post that feels really like, whoa, I'm like moving this thing out of me, and it's like, whoa, and then like there it is on my blog. And then it's like, even if you send a newsletter, right? It's kind of like,
yeah.
And so it's like on Instagram, you have this, and whether or not people like actively respond, you have that felt experience of being seen. So one of my favorite ways to play with this on Instagram is to change your bio. And I used to do this with business cards, where it was like, I would put, as I'm like trying to figure out like, what am I even called? Like, because it's hard to put a name to all this magic.
Right.
So it was like, I would put like multi-dimensional healer or inner alchemist or something. And it was like, and I'm telling you, like, I bought and threw away so many, God bless those trees, so many business cards, like going through this process. And then like, and having that experience of handing my card to someone and then being like, whoa, what is an inner alchemist, And that came from, like as entrepreneurs, you're like taught that you have this statement around like, I work with so-and-so and I help them to blah, blah, blah. But the instead of being like, I'm a teacher, right?
Yeah.
And so the point of having that statement is to elicit more conversation, right? That's why you do that. So that people are like, what does that mean? Like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I don't really like that statement. So I want to just say like as far out of a something as I can say, I'll be like, I'm a, intergalactic emissary.
Yeah.
And people are like, what?
Yeah.
And so there's that conversation. So the same thing happens in your Instagram bio where it's like, I encourage people to like really use that as like flexing this muscle of how do I talk about myself and what I do in the world and what I'm passionate about, because it's like, if you change your bio, it's very, very rare that anyone will comment on a photo and say, oh, I love what you said in your bio. I love how you changed that. I might do that because I'm super aware of it.
Yeah.
But most people will not do that. But what happens is that you don't have that immediate or any type of response sometimes, but you have that experience, that felt experience of standing like on the edge of the cliff of your Instagram feed, because it's this vertical thing, right? So you walk out to the edge and you stand on the edge and you say, this is who I am, to those 300, 500, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 people. And it has a repercussion, you know?
Absolutely.
There's shock waves that ripple through your energetic being around having that experience of saying like, this is who I am.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done that recently, and that is, I will validate, that is a thing that does happen. Yes. I changed, I don't even know, time is so strange right now, but maybe it was just a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and as soon as I did, I just had this like, oh, okay, we're doing, and maybe you know what? I don't know how many people noticed, but it didn't matter for me. That was the point, is that it was, it was like a total redefinition of what is my I am. It was felt very, very different after that change. So I will validate, just doing that recently was a big, and I'm sure I'll do it again in 2 weeks. I'm sure I'll play with it again and start, and just seeing what feels even more authentic. So I would say that is a huge shift when you play with the vocabulary and the energy and the words that you're saying that you are. I think that's a really powerful way to start being more seen. We keep talking about this, about being seen. And I think I'm seeing a lot more women wanting to be seen in their power now. It's starting to really, I don't know, do you see a shift for 2017 where this is, it feels like we're just, we're in some weird energy right now. At least I'm experiencing it a bit intensely right now. But I mean, as you see kind of 2017 or like the next year coming, why is it important to start doing this work now?
Well, I mean, like, there's a lot of reasons why it's important now. It's like, you know, we could talk about like, the end of 2012, right? When we chose creativity and the unknown as opposed to death and annihilation. And so that was this kind of like graduation point where we moved on from that. And that the energy from there is like, we all feel it. And I think that's why Instagram is such, it's such an amazing platform, because it's like, even in like my own feed, it's like I'm just like, wow, like so many people are talking about the astrology now, right?
Yeah.
It's like, like there were like, if this is how many people I follow, it's like before there were like this many people talking about the astrology, and now it's like this many people talking about the astrology.
Yeah.
And just that it's like this is rising in our consciousness. And so it's just like I don't know, like, where is it going, but it's like that's where the momentum is. And so it's like, keep throwing logs on the fire, because, this is an important fire for us to stoke for our own awakening. Because you don't know where you're going to get to. You're just like, we just keep putting one foot forward. But what the words that were really coming to me as you were saying this is like, all about like being seen. And it's the rise of the solar feminine.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like
and
that.
So, yeah, it's in the same way that, we've been taught that it's like, the sun is the center of our solar system, and it's like, the son of God and all of this stuff. And people have been playing with this, yes, like, Christ was a man, and it was important for him to be a man then, because the message needed to be received. Had he been a woman, it may not have been as effective. It's like when I had acupuncture clients and I was giving them herbs, it's like, well, the most effective herbs are the ones that you boil and you make your decoction on your stove and they're really stinky. And then there's, you can take the powder, which is also like, whew. And then, or you can take the pills, which is kind of like not as effective, but you're going to take them. Yeah. So having a real conversation about like, what is the most effective thing? Because the point is for you to take the medicine, right? So if pills are the way you're going to do it, then we're going to go with pills, even though they're not as effective as doing that. But the most effective thing is you taking the medicine as opposed to not taking it, right?
Right.
So for the consciousness of the time, it was very important that this energy inhabit a man so that it could be received, so that people could take the medicine.
Yeah.
So, but it's like, the word Christ means christened, right? And so it's like the anointment, right? And, we know like Mary Magdalene was the woman who anointed the God.
Yeah.
And so, and it's not the conversation is not around male or female. The conversation is around the holism.
Yeah, and the consciousness. Yeah.
And so it's like, for women, for so long, we've been like associated with the moon. And yes, that is important. But the moon is the reflection of the sun's light. And so it's like, instead of hanging out only over here, it's time for us to loop in the solar frequencies and the solar consciousness. And that energy lives in your solar plexus chakra, right? Because it's, as within, so without. And your solar plexus is the center of your solar system, in the same way that the central sun is the center of our solar system. And it's just like, I'll never forget last year at Burning Man, there was this woman who just like was fire, and she was like, she gave me like big spiritual smackdown. And I think I wrote about that too, but on Instagram maybe. But, And she looked at me and she was just like in the middle of our conversation around self-confidence and stuff. And she was like, and we were talking about energetic hygiene. She was like, I am the son of God. And I was like, fuck.
Yeah. Claiming it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's this, the rise of the solar feminine as like the luminary, like creating her own light as opposed to reflecting it from other sources. And like so many things are coming to me. It was just like, whew. But it's yeah, because there's like, even some people who talk about that the moon is actually like this kind of like fabricated satellite that extraterrestrials put into our magnetic field to anchor us closer to the sun in this particular proximity. So because it's like I don't know, I'm not going to say I don't know totally the science behind this, but it's like that they've like, there's only a certain level that you can like dig down into the moon before it's like almost kind of like a metal where,
Yeah.
So I don't know, but it's just that the moon is this thing that's questionable and the sun is this thing that's not.
Absolutely.
And so it's, I think it was like and that's like, there's so much here like that, the fall of Lucifer. Lucifer was actually another planet. And like, that was what created the Great Flood, was like that planet coming into our atmosphere. There's so many stories that we understand only through these like metaphors.
Right.
Of like the biblical stories and everything. And again, like you have to understand that those stories were told to us so that we would take the medicine.
Exactly. Well, and now as you're speaking to this, what I think about is this magic tribe that you've started building, right? We each have our own expertise, our own fingerprint on trying to like connect the dots of this very, very grand story where we're trying to decode the myths and what feels like it makes a lot of sense to us. So it feels, if it's true to me, it feels that I believe that's the truth. Why is that? You start exploring and sharing that medicine as you are starting to remember it and uncover it. So that's what I think. It's really a beautiful time for collaboration and each of us coming together and bringing our offering to the big story that we're all kind of putting together right now.
Yeah. And I think that it's, there's this progression of learning where, you learn something and you try it on and then like, the pendulum swings to that side. And then you learn something else and the pendulum swings to that side. But ultimately, like, you come down to rest in this place that is you. And then it's like that stillness is actually, you can get kind of uncomfortable because it's like, well, what is it that is me? Because I've been working with this thing that I learned from this person or this thing that I saw on this person's Instagram. And then it's like coming down into that still point of saying like, okay, well, what is my energy? What are the words that want to come out of me that are coming through me, that it's like, like my friend Faye says, it's like, speak what you've never heard before.
Absolutely. Please, more of us. Like, let's all do that. Absolutely. Yeah. I think we should end there. I think that's, yes, let's wrap it up with that. That's a really powerful message to send out to everyone. And I would encourage everyone to check out soulstarmedicine.com. Obviously follow Rachel's at soulstarmedicine on Instagram. And thank you so much for offering your time and wisdom to us today.
Thank you so much, Katie. It was a blessing and a pleasure to be here and to speak to everyone who is here with us, whether they're hearing this or hearing the recording or however it's finding them, because we feel them all here right now.
Yes. All right. Thank you.